alive. Um, Today, it's time for Bible study, right? And so we are on the 38th chapter of the book of Jasher.
Verse 20.
Verse 20, and we will be continuing on. Okay, so let's just go over what did we talk about yesterday. Who remembers our Bible study from last night? Anybody?
Yeah, I remember how Judah, Simeon, and Levi jumped over the circle wall. And someone was screaming, and they're screaming like not a normal type of scream, but like a death scream.
Right.
And they said, take everything, just don't kill us.
Correct.
And then they went, and then something happened. They heard about someone else trying to go to war, and they turned and they went to that city.
But before that happened, the other brothers.
We're sitting on the wall watching to see if that was Levi and them screaming like that, or if that was the people.
And he said,
that's right.
And he said, if one of their brothers acted like one of the bad people, they didn't want to go down just in case the brothers thought they were the other side, so they wouldn't want to be destroyed.
Right. So they left from the city that they were, which was Chizar, and they're headed to Sartan, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to pick up from 20, and I believe it's 52 verses in this chapter. I'm not for sure. We will roll on and thinking we stop right around 40 or something like that. We'll just kind of see how it goes. Let's listen for understanding. Let's listen for a life lesson. And let's listen for things that we can get and gain off of it. Legos away. All right. So, and we read from verse 20. And again, we're in the book of Jasher, chapter 38. We're on verse 20. And the pillar of the rampart was about 50 cubits, and its breadth 40 cubits. And there was no place for a man to enter the city on account of the rampart. And the sons of Jacob saw the rampart of the city, and they sought an entrance in it, but could not find it. So they've hit the city of Sartan, right? And as they got to the city of Sartan, there's this deep divide that's hard for them to get over and get through in order for them to get to the city. So they're circling around the city now, and they're trying to find out how do they get into the city, right? Because while they were in the city of Chizar, they heard that there was an army being built up in the city of Sartan, so they moved from the city of Chizar to the city of Sartan, right? So verse 21 we read, and the entrance to the city was at the rear. And every man that wished to come into the city came by the road and went around the whole city, and he afterwards entered the city. So people would come from the front of the wall part, and they would circle all the way around the city to the back, and that's where the gate was to be able to get into this city, right? 22, and the sons of Jacob, seeing they could not find the way into the city, their anger was kindled greatly. And the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming to them, were greatly afraid of them. And they heard of their strength and what they had done at Chizar. And the inhabitants of the city of Sartan could not go out towards the son of Jacob after having assembled in the city to fight against them, lest they might thereby get into the city. So they're saying that inside the city, they've made the choice not to open the gate and go out and battle and fight them. Because if they do, they're worried about the sons of Jacob making it into the city and wiping them out like they did in Chizar, right? So let's see what plan that they come up with. But when they saw that they were coming towards them, they were greatly afraid of them, for they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Chizar. So the inhabitants of Sartan speedily took away the bridge of the road of the city from its place before the sons of Jacob came, and they brought it into the city. So at the back of the city, all the way around the wall, across the rampart, they had like a drawbridge, right? So they pulled the bridge up to prevent them from being able to get into the city, because remember, they've already made the decision they are not going to go out and battle them outside of the city. Verse 25, and the sons of Jacob came and sought the way into the city and could not find it. And the inhabitants of the city went up to the top of the wall and saw, and behold, the sons of Jacob were seeking an entrance into the city. And the inhabitants of the city reproached the sons of Jacob from the top of the wall, and they cursed them. And the sons of Jacob heard the reproaches, and they were greatly incensed, and their anger burned within them. And the sons of Jacob were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart with the force of their strength, and through their might passed the 40 cubits breadth of the rampart. So let's take a look at the distance of 40 cubits. Because remember that it was split wide to where it was 40 cubits wide. That's how far they would have to jump to make it over there.
Dad,
Right?
Cubic is from here to here.
Right. It's from the distance of the average forearm, or 18 inches, right? So we have 40 cubits. And remind me, my son, we're at 29, okay? All right. So let's take 40 and multiply by 18. So they jumped 720 inches. Let's divide that by 12. See, this is when it be something that's wild, because it comes out at about 60 feet. So it's saying that they got so hot and got so upset, they took off running, lunged, and jumped over this rampart. Okay, and you're gonna see wild numbers like this. But what did we say yesterday? We said that when you're in right relationship with the Most High, there's no telling what you'll be able to do. After all, when Seneca Red was talking all that mess, and the Lord sent that angel to drop 185,000 captains overnight, that was no problem for an angel. So why would the Most High not be able to bless a person and be able to jump 60 feet? We sit back and we watch the basketball, we watch the football, we watch track and field, and we watch athletes on their own do amazing things. So when you take all that into consideration and you add the power and the gift of the Most High into it, especially because in this situation, it's the Most High that's waging war against those that are in the land of Canaan, because they don't belong there, right? Okay. 27, and the sons of Jacob were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart with the force of their strength, and through their might passed the 40 cubits breadth of the rampart. And when they had passed the rampart and stood under the wall of the city, they found all the gates of the city enclosed with iron doors. Yes.
What do you mean by this breath thing?
Meaning that, so you know how you have height, right? And then you also have width, the thickness, right? So he's saying that was the thickness or the length that they had to jump across. You get it? Okay. 29. So now they've made it to the gate, right? And they're able to stand underneath the gate. And what they're seeing when they're looking is that there's iron doors protecting from them getting in, right? So let's see what they do. Because remember, the inhabitants of the city are up on the wall. And they're up on the wall looking over the wall, and they're shouting down at them, talking crazy to them, right? All right. And all this is doing is making them more and more and more upset, right? And the sons of Jacob came near to break open the doors of the gates of the city. And the inhabitants did not let them. For from the top of the wall, they were casting stones and arrows upon them. So while they're trying to break through the gate of the city, which is an iron gate, right? The inhabitants are up on the wall, and they're casting down stones and they're firing arrows. Now, right now, we know when they were in the city of Chazar, it was the sons of Jacob and his servants. So it had about around 100 to 120 of them. Right now, we've only heard that the sons of Jacob have moved on from the city of Chazar to the city of Sartan that they're in right now, right? But we will see if they mention any of the servants being with them. Verse 30. And the number of the people that were upon the wall was about 400 men. And when the sons of Jacob saw that the men of the city would not let them open the gates of the city, they sprang and ascended the top of the wall, and Judah went up first to the east part of the city. So here we go again with, that's what I'm trying to explain to y'all, man, is that they would run into these situations and they would use their God-given gifts and talents to overcome them. And the things that they would do would cause fear in the hearts and the eyes of those that they had to go against, right? So here they are constantly trying to find their way around this fence line, right? or these walls to this city. They couldn't find their way around until they finally found that it was to the backside. They made it over to the backside. They pulled the bridge up so that they can't make it across the rampart. They spring across the rampart and they're at the gates. Now they see that they have iron doors and they have it solidified and they have it blocked to where you can't break down the iron doors. So what's the only other thing that they could do? Either dig down or go up and over. So they spring and they go up and over the top, right? Okay. And Gad and Asher went up after him to the west corner of the city, and Simeon and Levi to the north, and Dan and Reuben to the south. So Judah is by himself in the east part of the city. Gad and Asher are on the west part of the city. Simeon and Levi are in the north part of the city, and Dan and Reuben are at the south part of the city, right? And the men who were on the top of the wall, the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming up to them, they all fled from the wall and descended into the city and concealed themselves in the midst of the city. And Issachar and Naphtali that remained under the wall approached and broke the gates of the city and kindled a fire at the gates of the city that the iron melted. And the sons of Jacob came into the city, they and all their men. So they did have their servants with them, right? And think about this. So while they're coming up over the wall, two of the brothers, Issachar and Naphtali, are building a fire at the gates to get the fire to burn hot enough to melt the metal within the gate, right? All right. 33. And all the sons of Jacob came into the city, they and all their men, and they fought with the inhabitants of the city of Sartan, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and no man stood up before them. And about 200 men fled from the city, and they all went and hid themselves in a certain tower in the city. And Judah pursued them to the tower and broke down the tower, which fell upon the men, and they all died. And the sons of Jacob went up the road of the roof of that tower, and they saw, and behold, there was another strong and high tower at a distance in the city, and the top of it reached to heaven. And the sons of Jacob hastened and descended, and went with all their men to that tower, and found it filled with about 300 men, women, and little ones. Now remember that when we're talking about what's going on right now, this was something that was personal between the Most High and the Amorites. Yes.
What do you mean when it says it ascended to heaven?
When it says that the tower ascended to heaven, this tower was one of those towers that went super high, kind of like a skyscraper up into the sky. The first tower was probably a shorter one, and the second one that they were talking about that they saw after they broke the first one down was a magnificent one. It was a high tower, one that went all the way up into the sky. You get it? You know, like when we go to San Francisco, they have them huge buildings. Mm-hmm. Think about it like that. Like that was one of the towers. It was a huge building, right? And 35. And the sons of Jacob went up the road of the roof of that tower, and they saw and beheld there was another strong and high tower at the distance in the city, and the top of it reached to heaven. And the sons of Jacob hastened and descended and went with all their men to that tower, and found it filled with about 300 men, women, and little ones. And the sons of Jacob smote a great smiting amongst those men in the tower, and they ran away and fled from them. Yes.
How did they build it to heaven?
Well, you have to understand that just like they have the pyramids, just like they have all of these things that have been constructed, that were constructed with amazing precision and whatnot, people were not dumb during this time. You got to remember that whether you like it or not, a lot of these groups, especially with the Amorites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, all of these individuals, what were they learning?
Witchcraft.
They were learning witchcraft. And part of witchcraft is a form of science, mathematics. They were where they were getting their information from was wrong, but they were learning amazing information. They were building amazing buildings. These weren't weak or dumb people, right? Mm-hmm. After all, if they were, then they wouldn't have been able to conquer the land and take it over. Does that make sense? Okay. Verse 37. And Simeon and Levi pursued them when 12 mighty and valiant men came out to them from the place where they had concealed themselves. And those 12 men maintained a strong battle against Simeon and Levi. And Simeon and Levi could not prevail over them. And those valiant men broke the shields of Simeon and Levi. And one of them struck at Levi's head with his sword, when Levi hastily placed his hand to his head, for he was afraid of the sword, and the sword struck Levi's hand, and it wanted but little to the hand of Levi being cut off. Meaning that when he struck him with the sword on his hand, he almost cut his hand off. Right? Now, out of all the people that they've been battling, even when you go all the way back to the city of Shechem, who was it that was going in and getting it in? It was Simeon and Levi. So these are two of the top and strongest brothers out of the brothers of the sons of Jacob, right? And these two sons, they're now going up against 12 captains. These captains, fully armored, prepare for battle, and they fight in unison. You're going to see as we continue to go on and see how it works, right? And one thing that you really got to understand is that at the end of the day, you're going to have to make sure that you work in unison with each other, not just as brother and sister, but also as a people. Okay? And so let's read. And Levi seized the sword of the valiant man in his hand and took it forcibly from the man. And with it, he struck at the head of the powerful man, and he severed his head. He cut his head off. So now it's only 11 of them left, right? And 11 men approached to fight with Levi, for they saw that one of them was killed. And the sons of Jacob fought, but the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them, for those men were very powerful. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that they could not prevail over them, Simeon gave a loud and tremendous shriek. And the 11 powerful men were stunned at the voice of Simeon's shriek. And Judah at a distance knew the voice of Simeon shouting. And Naphtali and Judah ran with their shields to Simeon and Levi, and found them fighting with those powerful men, unable to prevail over them as the shields were broken. So they're in a battle and they're in a fight, and they're not able to take these dudes down. They can't land a hit. And so Simeon, he backs up and he shouts out and like calls out to his brothers, right? And when he sends out the call, his brothers hear it and they immediately come to him, right? And when they come to him, they find him battling these dudes and they're not able to take them out. So let's see what they do. 44. And Simeon, Levi, and Judah on that day fought all three against the 11 mighty men until the time of sunset, but they could not prevail over them. You understand what I'm saying? So they were in a battle for an immense amount of time, and they were not able to defeat these guys or beat them. They were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody landing a decisive blow, right? And this was told to Jacob, and he was sorely grieved, and he prayed unto Yahuwah, and he and Naphtali his son went against these mighty men. So when Jacob heard that his sons, first of all, it was two of them fighting. Judah came to join them. Now it's all three of them fighting against these 11, and they still not able to take them down. So Jacob starts to pray, right? And after he prays, him and Naphtali go to the area that Judah, Simeon, and Levi are battling. And Jacob approached and drew his bow and came nigh unto the mighty men and slew 3 of their men with the bow. And the remaining 8 turned back, and behold, the war raged against them in the front and rear. And they were greatly afraid of their lives and could not stand before the sons of Jacob. And they fled before them. So in this fight with the 11, Jacob ended up having to come and shoot arrows with his bow to take out 3 of them. And after he took out those 3, these dudes were so strong, they still weren't able to wipe them out. They were actually able to back up, get away from the fight because they couldn't prevail against the sons of Jacob, right? So it shows that the sons of Jacob weren't invincible. You get what I'm saying? They were still men at the end of the day, right? And in their flight, they met Dan and Asher coming towards them. And they suddenly fell upon them and fought with them and slew 2 of them. So when the 8 broke off and tried to get out of there, as they were escaping, Dan and Asher, 2 more sons of Jacob, were coming up from that direction. And while they was trying to escape, they ran straight into them. And those 2 dropped 2 of them, right? And slew 2 of them. And Judah and his brothers pursued them and smote the remainder of them and slew them, so that they were finally able to defeat those 12 captains. And all the sons of Jacob returned and walked about in the city, searching if they could find any men. And they found about 20 young men in a cave in the city. And Gad and Asher smote them all. And Dan and Naphtali lighted upon the rest of the men who had fled and escaped from the second tower, and they smote them all. And the sons of Jacob smote all the inhabitants of the city of Sartan. But the women and little ones they left in the city and did not slay them. So this group of people were different than the group of people in Chazar. You see that difference? Because in Chazar, they was taking out men, women, and children. But in the city of Sartan, they were only taking out the men, right?
Why?
That's a good question. And I don't have the answer to that. And all the inhabitants of the city of Sartan were powerful men. One of them would pursue 1,000, and 2 of them would not flee from 10,000 of the rest of men. So it's saying that these were not a weak people. These were an extremely powerful and proud people, a warrior-like people. You understand? When it says that all of the inhabitants of the city of Sartan were powerful men, one of them would go up against 1,000. So if one of them was by themselves, they'd be ready to fight 1,000 dudes. They're not tripping. They're soldiers. They're warriors, right? And the sons of Jacob slew all the inhabitants of the city of Sartan with the edge of the sword, that no man stood up against them. And they left the women in the city. And the sons of Jacob took all the spoil of the city, and they captured what they desired. And they took flocks and herds and property from the city. And the sons of Jacob did unto Sartan and its inhabitants as they had done to Chazar and its inhabitants. And they turned and went away. And that's the end of chapter 38.
Did they destroy all the people of Chazar?
No.
The people of Chazar, they were wiping them out. Up until the point to where they were like, take everything that we have, just please don't kill us, right? So they gave up, right? And then that's when they went from the city of Chazar to the city of Sartan. And the city of Sartan, they were a different breed of people. They were some serious soldiers. They were no joke, right? Look at how long Simeon, Judah, and Levi were in a battle. Levi almost lost his hand in this battle, right? Right. So tomorrow we will pick up at Jasher chapter 39. You guys know our schedule. We go live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Eventually we are going to get to the point to where we go live every day of the week. We always encourage you guys to check us out. We encourage you guys to read your Bible by yourself. We encourage you guys to pray. We encourage you to fast. Doing those 3 things right there will change your life. Spend some time with the Most High. Don't allow yourself to just get caught up in the world, man. You guys have a great night. May God bless you. May He lead you. May He uplift you. May He answer your questions. And may you be prepared for Him to make a change in your life and go through that change to achieve the things that you are asking for. In Jesus' name, amen.